And I'm live and I'm by myself. Hello, all. Welcome. It is Thursday night, Generational Change. I'm Jen. No idea where Peter is. Said he had to go get some water. Haven't seen him since. So he got off and wandered off. But so here I am sitting here. I don't even know if he realizes what time it is. But anyway, yeah, you missed the intro. It's a little embarrassing. Come on. You missed the whole thing. Really.
Hello!
It doesn't work that way now.
Welcome all. This is Thursday night, Generational Change.
I already said that part.
You did?
I said, I'm Jen.
I'm Peter.
That was the part that was missing.
What is that really what I walked into? Was I literally like 2 seconds?
You were in 2 seconds. It was like I was already, you missed the whole thing.
Well,
I had to say, hi, I'm here. I'm alone. There's no one else here with me.
I thought I had enough time. Look,
Peter has very big eyes and very small stomach when it comes to time management skills.
I did get the pizza done in an appropriate
It wasn't, that was not necessary.
It wasn't, but it's good though.
That's not.
Yeah, see, she doesn't like
no,
when
I
turn
don't.
her around and
Well,
turn it into
it's
a
not
positive.
just, I just would have waited.
I apologize. So here we are.
We're live.
Yes, we are. My God, it's like you want to derail the whole show. Can't you just accept the fact that I'm not?
No, you're always forever on Peter time.
That is not true.
Yes, it is.
No, I moved quick.
For people, if you don't know, if you invite Peter to something, you got to treat him like he's Cuban. You send him the invitation that calls for people to come 2 hours ahead of time.
That's not true. That's being way too. No. You make it seem like if I roll into something, I'm rolling in like super duper late. That's not
No,
true.
you're just always late to get me.
I was not late to get you. What are you talking about? We got there I said I would be there at 6. We got there at 6:20 or whatever, and we left when you said you wanted to leave, 8:15. I didn't even fret. I was like
in a
literally
schwitz.
out.
I was so in a schwitz.
So where did we go this evening?
So we went to the annual cocktail gala party for Mobile School Pantry, which is a local organization that we support here in South Florida. They provide amazing, healthy produce and supermarket style setup to a whole bunch of schools whose families are on free and reduced lunch. And they're an amazing organization. So
I just realized I would have had more orange on tonight if I had just worn one of the Gen Change shirts. Because orange was the theme color, and of course we got these.
Orange is always their theme color.
Yes.
Everybody knows that, but you.
But I've got my orange wristband now. There was a lady there with an orange wig on.
I know, she was cool. I was talking to her.
Yeah, it was a very nice event. Zena Wallen is an amazing small business entrepreneur who started Mobile School Pantry back in 2016.
It is, and they're in 13 elementary schools.
Yep.
And they're an amazing organization. But anyway,
I mean, ultimately bringing, communities that desperately need healthy alternatives to all of the crap that is typically served to them. Having healthy fruits and vegetables to choose from really makes a difference.
It's just a very cool vibe.
We were volunteers when there was only a few people that were able to show up at the
I'm
events.
happy to say she doesn't really need us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that pleases me because she has a whole bunch of young, but a lot of them are really young volunteers, a lot of people that could be lugging and doing.
No time for you, old lady.
Well, right. Like, I'm very happy to pass the torch to younger people that want to be carrying boxes and breaking down boxes and whatever. And she knows that if she ever needs us, we will come. But I am very happy to say that she doesn't really need us anymore. So that pleases me.
We all know that we have a terrible nonprofit industrial complex in the United States.
Yes, we do.
If there is a diamond in the rough, it is definitely Mobile School Pantry.
Well, they're small, they're local.
So without further ado, she is a regular, and it is always welcoming to have a regular because it makes the conversation so much more fluid and easy. And considering the way that our show has what I like to consider a diverse political opinion, which is always important, it is very important to have a person who truly is on the left, pulling no punches whatsoever, especially in light of what's been going on recently. Not just on the domestic front, particularly with UAW strike, but also with what just happened on the international front with our neighbors to the north. And this is something,
Canada.
This is something that corporate media is desperately trying to sweep under the rug like it didn't happen. Why? Because it might actually sway opinion differently when it comes to the war in Ukraine. So without further ado,
Margaret Kimberley. She is, and I forget what managing editor, Black Agenda Report.
Black Agenda.
Well, I know it's the Black Agenda Report. I will ask. I forget her exact title, and she's also the author of Prejudicial, which is a great book. You guys should read it.
Margaret Kimberley, welcome back to Generational Change.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Remind me what you are at Black Agenda Report. Like, I forget your title there.
Oh, executive editor.
That's what it is. Okay.
Executive.
Okay. As long as you say Black Agenda Report, it's fine.
She's with the Black Agenda Report. I don't know what she does there, but she's with
Credentials are enough. It suffice. And there she is.
There you go. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's good to be back. It's been a while.
It's been a while, and interesting. This is not a typical subject that we would normally have you on to talk about, which is really interesting. And so Peter has shown me you have a nice new article out that you just wrote, and we definitely need to get into all of that. I know people have been following the Canadian. Apparently, there's the Nazis, the song and dance with that. But meanwhile, we have no problem funding them in Ukraine. But I digress. So would you please tell us the gist of like what the impetus was like for you to write this particular article that you wrote, and how that came about?
Sure. Well, you know, the history of the Nazi connection in Ukraine and in Canada is very, very clear. Ukraine, I'm generalizing its history, but it's a divided nation. Roughly half of it was content being part of the Soviet Union. The other half hated the Soviet Union. And so much so that when Germany invaded during World War II, a substantial number of Ukrainians collaborated, volunteered to be in SS units. You know, when we talk about the massacres of Jews and Poles and Eastern Europe, a lot of those killings were committed by local people who volunteered. So, and that is still part of Ukraine. The Nazi salutes. They've been airbrushing photos, all kinds of Nazi insignia on Ukrainian uniforms. A shopping mall. There's a famous video of a swastika, neon lights in a shopping mall. So, but if you bring this up, you're immediately shut down. It's Russian propaganda. It's not true. The president is Jewish.
Right.
No. Canada also played a role because immediately after World War II, when the Cold War began, Canada admitted allowed to immigrate war criminals from Ukraine, from some of the Baltic states. They wanted people who were anti-communist. The US rules were a little more rigid. It was hard for them to immigrate. So Canada, Britain, the US, they were all in cahoots here in allowing war criminals to come to their country. Canada has these monuments to these Nazi units. The current deputy prime minister, her grandfather was a pro-German propagandist. Stepan Bandera, the leader of the collaborators, his grandson lives in Canada. But these were things you weren't supposed to talk about. Now, for reasons known only to themselves, Zelensky was visiting, and all they had to do was have Zelensky in parliament say they loved him, say we'll never give up, we'll defeat Vladimir Putin, yada, yada. That's all they had to do. Instead, someone had the bright idea of finding an actual Nazi to be honored with a standing ovation from every member of Canada's parliament that was present. And I think it's a combination of things. I think, you know, when you lie a lot, you start to believe the lie. So this obvious fact that they introduced him as a man who fought the Russians in World War II. Any Ukrainian who fought the Russians in World War II was a Nazi, period, the end. but someone decided this was a good idea. They were gilding the lily. And I think in part that's because Ukraine is losing the war and they don't know what to do. They've backed themselves into this corner. There are indications they want to get rid of Zelensky now. He's outlived his usefulness. So I think a combination of all of these things created this political debacle for Canada.
Yeah, I mean, and just the hypocrisy of the whole thing. I've been saying it left and right. You know, anybody you have, and I even saw it in your article, like they're bringing out the blue and yellow flags, and all of a sudden it's like it's as if they forgot exactly what went down in World War II. We're back to this Red Scare all over again, and it's ridiculous. We are actually we're funding the Nazis in Ukraine against the Russians, who were, last I heard, were on our team, as if there's teams. But like it's really, I think of it as just a matter of keeping the military-industrial complex churning. That's what I think. I mean, it's very, very like profitable.
I absolutely. That's one of the things. You know, Raytheon and McDonnell Douglas and Grumman and whoever the heck else, they're going to get theirs. They always get theirs. Yeah. Also, they thought they were going to be able to weaken Russia by instigating this conflict. That is not going to happen. Despite all the sanctions, Russia's economy is humming along. They can't boycott Russian oil. Russia is very close to China. It is forming relationships with other countries. So this idea that they can keep encroaching on Russia, that Russia would accept Ukraine becoming a member of NATO, is just ridiculous and very, very dangerous. So this very dubious assertion that they could get what they wanted is being shown to be of complete failure. You know, the U.S. even, and I'm convinced they did it, Seymour Hersh is right, they even blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. The media cover for them, so people haven't heard as much about it as they should have. And I think yesterday or today was the anniversary of the actual sabotage, by the way. But all of these things that are very, very dangerous, and the other thing is political. Americans do not like the fact that Ukraine and the military industrial complex are getting billions of dollars. I didn't watch it, but I heard about the 60 Minutes story, basically revealing at last that the U.S. is supporting Ukraine completely. It's like the 51st state. The entire government apparatus would fall apart were it not for U.S. money. So people who are here told, no, you can't have the child tax credit. No, you can't have the emergency COVID relief anymore. We're always told no, but it's everything for Ukraine. And they're very nervous as presidential election year approaches.
Margaret, can you talk about every once in a while, the two parties, but let's be honest, they're just, two wings of the same corporate party in many ways. But every once in a while, the red team and the blue team switch teams, or switch players, I should say. And so one of the things that clearly happened as a result of Trump's presidential win is you had this coalition of neocons in the GOP that basically you want to give it to Trump or you want to give it to the more populist side of the right that decided that they want no part of the war machine and that they're going to make a stand and make it a part of the fabric of the GOP as it stands today. And we've seen that reflected in the debates. The likes of David Frum, Jennifer Rubin,
oh my God,
Bill Kristol, they have been welcomed into the Democratic establishment with arms wide open, not open arms.
They've swapped sides, is what you're saying. They've switched.
And so I'm wondering if the bureaucratic neocon contingent of the Beltway, which has been welcomed into the Democratic Party establishment wide open, that they have played a substantial role in terms of ginning up support for, anti-Russian sentiment, as has been the case over the past several years. And now it's really coming home to roost, because the very class of people in this country, you live around them all day, every day, in Manhattan and different parts of the United States, where they are very keen to send money and even people off to die, but they, of course, will be the last people that will ever pick up a weapon to defend a nation.
Mm-hmm.
They seem all too willing to say that the war in Ukraine must continue, even though 500,000 Ukrainians on paper have been killed.
Mm-hmm.
If even a fraction of that were U.S. troops, would they accept such? I'm not sure what the answer would be, but they seem to be completely okay if another 500,000 Ukrainians have to be slaughtered. Your thoughts on this titanic shift in many ways in regards to the Democratic establishment today, especially when it comes to foreign policy?
Yeah, well, I want to mention, some members of Congress have actually used this as a talking point. No Americans have died in Ukraine. Now, they don't care that the Ukrainians they claim to love so much. They don't care if they're thrown into the meat grinder. But this is actually a talking point. Well, no Americans have died. Just some poor slob from Kiev is the only one dying.
Lindsey Graham.
Lindsey Graham, Mitt Romney, some others. And you're absolutely right. And this all goes back to, it goes back a long way. Lest we forget, it was the Obama administration in 2014 and Victoria Nuland was part of the Obama administration.
Now she's back.
Now she's back. And they sided with helped the right wing to depose the elected president of Ukraine. So that goes back to Obama. Then you have the 2016 presidential election where Hillary Clinton, who should have been spending her energy on a get out the vote effort, instead spent months trying to tie Donald Trump to Russia, in part to deflect attention from her own deal, or rather Bill Clinton's dealings with the Russians, the uranium deal, which is absolutely true. It's a well-sourced story. But she was afraid of people tying her to Russia. So she decides to tie Donald Trump to Russia. And she called him Putin's puppet. And it'll be Christmas in the Kremlin if he wins. And then, of course, she loses. And in order to both excuse her loss, it continues. And Democrats, of course, they continue. And so now people who are liberal about everything else are hawkish about Ukraine and about some other issues. Then there are some, it's very odd. So the one member of Congress most outspoken about ending funding to Ukraine is Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I've looked at some of her statements about Ukraine, and I know I can't praise her. And also a lot of people on the right, they're against funding Ukraine because they want to make a war against China. So their argument is, leave Russia alone. Let's go to war against China. Right. So it's some wackadoodle thing in the end. But people on the left, allegedly on the left, should be embarrassed. They have not been able to come up with any coherent argument. They are afraid of their leadership. Either they agree with them outright, and if they don't agree, they have been beaten down. They had that, I don't know if you recall last year, they wrote a letter. It was a weird fence straddling, trying to have it both ways.
They retracted it. Then they retracted their very worded letter.
Roughly, not even 20 announced themselves.
Yeah.
So the only people speaking against Ukraine are on the right, but they're people you can't trust for other reasons. And the progressives, the people who used to speak up, even occasionally, there were always a handful of people. There aren't anymore. And that's where we are right now.
Yeah. I mean, even Barbara Lee didn't sign on to the war in Iraq. And she always kind of not brags about it, but kind of she plays that card. But yet, so where is she on this? Where are they on this?
She's for Ukraine.
Well, now she's, there's a picture of her when Zelensky spoke to Congress. She was one of the people shaking his hand. I think she was even wearing blue and yellow. It was the creepiest thing. Yes, she's gone for being this.
I mean, honestly, if you're trying to prevent the biggest war hawk of them all, Adam Schiff, getting into the U.S. Senate, it's like, what are you even doing? How do you think you're going to define yourself differently? You might as well just let Schiff get in there if that's how you're going to conduct yourself. It doesn't. It solves nothing.
It's disappointing.
And at the same time, people bring up, the libertarian right mindset of we're wasting all this money. Yes, we're wasting all this money and we're not spending it home, but it's not like you're advocating for the very policies that people need in order to correct the issues that are, we're faced with every day. And so now you're seeing this sort of, the people who supposedly are on the left cannot speak or just choose not to speak up. And I think that this comes from two different angles. Number one, Biden is an immensely vulnerable incumbent, more vulnerable than any incumbent's been probably since Jimmy Carter. And again, we've always said the reason Trump lost in 2020 was Joe Biden didn't win. Trump lost. Yeah, and so not understanding that, where people think, oh, but only Joe can beat him. I'm like, no, he can't. And
I don't think he can win again. I really don't. I think it's absolutely not going to happen.
I think they were lucky. I really believe they were very lucky. There was so much antipathy towards Trump. People who didn't bother to vote in 2016 came out again to get rid of Trump. The Democratic establishment, propped Biden up, got everybody else out of the race. Bernie Sanders went along, didn't say anything, and it was all about, you got to get rid of Trump. So whatever your misgivings about Biden, just shut up and, I'm forgetting the expression, hold your nose and vote.
Well, but even his wife said that, right? Even Dr. Jill basically said, you might not really like him, but really that's the menu.
Yes, it was very funny. He showed signs of cognitive impairments in 2020. It's 3 years later. Now it's even worse. The responsibilities of the presidency wear anybody down, but he wasn't healthy to begin with. The slurred speech, the weird, shaking hands with nobody there, wandering off stage. It's falling down. It's very, very clear he's in a vulnerable position, and he could lose. He could lose to any of the Republicans. I mean, I don't know who that will be.
Have I not been saying that? It doesn't matter who they put up.
When you see the polls coming out saying that he's losing to Nikki Haley, she would be even more hawkish than the Dems have been on Ukraine. Yeah. And it's like, well, let's just throw her in there.
Well, because at least she comes off competent. And that's the reality. He does not come off competent.
And all of and they've been caught up in their lies. When he was first elected, the most progressive progressive since FDR, he was going to cut child poverty in half. All the little bit of help during the pandemic is gone, and we're not supposed to even talk about it. We're not supposed to mention it. We're supposed to keep claiming he's so wonderful. Now he's on a UAW picket line, and we're supposed to forget how he shafted the railroad workers. So it's all very sad. He will get the, Democrats the staunch Democrats, but most people, I would say independents, there are at least as many independents as there are Democrats and Republicans. And then there's the enthusiasm problem. He got a boost because of Trump. He got a boost also because of mail-in voting. I'm all in favor of that. I think voting should be as simple and as easy as possible. But I think their luck ran out, and they propped him up and didn't groom anybody else. That was something they missed in the smoke-filled room. They should have said, well, Joe, you're going to be a one-termer, and then we're going to look for somebody else or something. But now they're flailing around. He's flailing around, and he could lose. Absolutely. I think he would lose.
I think he'd lose to any of them. Any of the ones that are like polling decently. But I think that they really had thought at some point years ago that it would be Kamala, and that she would be able to be the one to run, and he would be a one-term president. And I think that they realized the disaster that is she actually has worse numbers than he does. And I don't know anyone that really would want her. No. So that, I think, left them in a position where how can they run someone else and have it not be her? So in other words, we're not going to offer it to the first Black female vice president, which they've made such a big deal about all of this. And so for them to circumvent her would just not be good. And I think that's part of why he's sort of stuck.
Yeah, I think they've backed him into a corner. And, on the one hand, who knows if it's even his call, if he even really wants to run again. I think that ultimately, I think that this is the thing. This is the bureaucracy at work. It's like, this is a career for the overwhelming majority of people. It's like they don't care if he's a walking corpse.
No.
They just know that it's a job, and it's a very well paying and very well connected and very well benefited job. That if you've ever had it in DC, especially in a presidential administration, I mean, there's a reason why they talk about the forever Washington, because they'll work for any administration. It doesn't really matter, but they know that a lot of times these guys just get cleaned out left and right. One of the things that I don't think is getting talked about enough when it comes to why there was this shock poll, as I think most people are calling it, where Trump was apparently up by 9 or 10 points. There's two things that he has done recently that I don't think can be underestimated. The first one was his CNN interview where he said that anti-abortion is a losing issue. You must allow the voters to decide this. We are not going to arbitrarily take it away from people. The states have been deciding, and the states, even the reddest of red states, when the people have a right to make it stand, they all vote in favor of protecting a woman's bodily autonomy. And in addition to that, he's made it very clear. On day one, I will broker peace between Ukraine and Russia. I'm sorry, but I'm thinking that's probably doing a lot to help him in the polls. Just a thought.
I think both of those things are true, but he, one of the things that hurts Trump is that he's already been president. So we've seen him talk a good game during a campaign and then do just what the Republican establishment wanted him to do. He won, I think, in part because he talked about saving jobs, bringing jobs back to the country, being the working people's party. All of those things got him, helped him to get that electoral college victory. But now he's, and having said years ago, people have, dug up these interviews, he was pro-choice on abortion until he wanted to run for president, then he was anti-choice. So who knows how he really feels about abortion or what he would do, if anything. But he is correct, though, that it is a losing electoral issue. And as far as brokering peace, I could do it in 24 hours, typical, Trump braggadocio. But he's correct about that. He would, when he ran in 2016, he talked about, and he was an anti-China hawk. That was part of his strategy in talking about the U.S. having a better relationship with Russia. But what he said made sense. Why do we have to be adversaries with Russia? And it's been a disaster. This effort to weaken Russia or get Putin out of office, whatever the hell they were trying to do, it has failed miserably. And peaceful coexistence is the way to go. I don't think that's something Trump wants, but I believe that's the only future for the world, for the U.S. to stop telling even friendly countries that they can't be friends with Russia. They have to hate Russia. They've got to give weapons for Ukraine, and destroying anybody who doesn't agree. That's not the way to go. That only strengthens this new pole of power that's moving towards Russia and China. So I don't believe he knows he does know what people want to hear. That is his political strength, as it were. But I don't think he would do it. So, and I think, and his, the rest of his baggage, I don't know about these polls about him. He just may not even be able to run again, despite what people want, despite these poll numbers, all these indictments, the legal problems. And then, of course, he's Trump. So he goes to a gun show and talks about buying a gun. And, a staffer says he bought a gun. And then it's like, oops, he's under federal indictment. He can't buy a gun. And all of a sudden, no, actually, he didn't. I mean, it's so Trumpian. So I think that kind of stuff stands in his way, too.
I agree. And I think that if there's anything that we can all rally behind at this point, it's definitely the labor movement. And we have clearly seen what's going on with UAW. We've seen what's going on with a number of former presidential candidates and obviously current ones. And obviously we will get into Cornel West shortly. So we are now going to play a quick video about what's been going on and what is being said by individuals who want to be leaders of the free world regarding what is happening with the UAW strike. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
To the striking workers, I support you in your goal of fair wages and greater stability, and I truly hope you get a fair deal for yourselves and your families. But if your union leaders will not demand that Crooked Joe repeal his electric vehicle mandate immediately, then it doesn't matter what hourly wage you get. It just doesn't make a damn bit of difference, because in 2 to 3 years, you will not have one job in this state. In other words, your current negotiations don't mean as much as you think. I mean, I watch you out there with the pickets, but I don't think you're picketing for the right thing. But if they endorse me, your leadership, you can tell them I said it, although I have a feeling they may be watching tonight. Hopefully your leaders at United Auto Workers will endorse Donald Trump.
Despite the fact that CEOs now make 400 times on what their average worker makes. Despite record-breaking corporate profits. Despite corporate America spending hundreds of billions on dividends and stock paybacks, the average American worker today is worse off than he or she was 50 years ago.
Because I can't stand greedy bosses. I can't stand profit-obsessed owners that treat workers as if they're less than human. I come from a rich tradition. I salute Brother Sean, his leadership, and I'm just hoping that we can follow through. We need solidarity, solidarity, solidarity. I know the president was here yesterday, and symbolic gestures, you know, they're empty if you don't follow through. He broke the back of railway worker strikes already. He's been rationalizing corporate greed for the last 35 years. So it's nice for him to come and to say some words and things, but we need more than pretty words. You got to follow through, because we talking about issues of life and death. We talking about issues of dignity, and we talking about issues of benefits and wages, because the workers have been ripped off.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that. It's like, does anybody really think that Biden showing up to a picket line for a photo op actually has any substantive meaning? And wait, no, but the people who have been sitting there singing his praises because there's been some improvements with the NLRB and there's been some different things that have been definitely supportive of union membership, which is a good thing. But that doesn't mean that they're pro-labor. And it doesn't mean that they're actually doing anything to help workers. It just means that they're in cahoots with the unions. And it's just interesting to me that he shows up for what, 12 minutes?
Listen, you know, we have friends in you know, independent media and even corporate media that are out there saying, oh, it's the first sitting president that's showing up and he's standing on the picket line and this is unprecedented. And all I'm thinking is, oh my God, did he say? What did he do? He was there for 12 minutes. That is like, why even go? Like, why?
And the people think that's some sort of sign of something. I don't understand.
Well,
am I missing something?
Show up at an event like that and said, listen, I'm going to make the big three. They're going to sit down with UAW and we're going to hammer this thing out. And if it takes all day and all night, then we're going to get it done. No,
but nobody would believe that. He has no honor or integrity. He's a strikebreaker. So why would we believe anything he says? He'll stand there and say whatever he says, and then he's going to go in cahoots with management anyway. So it doesn't matter what he says.
At a time where photo
I'm right, Margaret?
You're absolutely right. Listen, Joe Biden was always one of the more conservative Democrats. That's who he was. That's why Obama chose him as a running mate, because Obama had this, it wasn't real, but he had this image as being very progressive. And to balance the ticket, they needed someone who was always a conservative. And so that's how Joe Biden ended up becoming his running mate. So, and that's how he's governed as president. There are things he could do without Congress that I think would have ensured his victory. Just legalize weed, for example. I mean, he could change, take marijuana off of the bad drug schedule, and that would win him votes. It wouldn't cost him anything. And you see what they have done with Ukraine. They'll change the rules to make sure money can go there. And it's like, oh, so you can make things happen if you really want to. But when it's anything that the people need, sorry, my hands are tied, mansion and cinema, or, the someone else. And now, oops, God, we lost the house. So sorry. So that's the situation that we're in now. And it's why, and nobody trusts him. No one's enthusiastic about Joe Biden. Even people who say to me, I want Biden to win. It's not about him. It's about having a Democrat instead of a Republican. It's about not having Trump. He doesn't have a real constituency. And there's, they are, backroom deal making to get everybody else out. In 2020, that worked then, but now he's the incumbent. And another thing that we have not mentioned, the fact that they've already said there aren't going to be any debates.
Right.
It doesn't matter who.
Well, they're not having a primary. They've said they're not having a primary. It's happening, but they're not having it. So the primary is happening, but they're not having a primary. It's hard to reconcile.
They're trying to push him through again. And this time, as we've said, I don't think it's going to work.
No, and here's my rationale. Like, I did hold my nose in 20. You know what? Mm-hmm. There was no universe in 16 where I was going to vote for Hillary Clinton. That was never going to happen. But in 20, I did. I somehow and by no means was on any high horse about this. I was not pleased with it at all. It was kind of like okay, but maybe at least the DACA kids will be safe, and maybe I don't know. Whatever. That will not happen again. And I cannot believe that I'm the only person who that was. And so now, but I won't vote for Trump, right? Like, I'm not gonna. And so I have been very, very clear. So in a few years, when Trump wins again, and they're blaming the Cornel West voters, I have been putting it right out there like this, looking straight out and saying, I assure you, if Cornel West was not running, I still would not vote for Joe Biden. So I want to be very clear on that. So when they come back and say that that's why Cornel West is not stealing my vote from Joe, I assure you that. I just want that documented.
What's also interesting that you have to remember is that when you look at these numbers that are coming out, and there's no primary. He's gone back on his word on just about everything. The parliamentarian will forever be a meme as a result, from among other things. And when people talk about the infrastructure bill and not realizing that it's a complete corporate giveaway, is there a cut? Is 7 to maybe even 10% of the bill good, and is going to infuse billions of dollars in like new roads and broadband and things like that? Yes, but does that even scratch the surface of what is going to happen when it comes to CEO pay, worker pay, actual infrastructure projects that are desperately needed, like high-speed rail? Anybody? Just the little things that we would talk about on that front, and the fact that they were supposed to pass Build Back Better first. And you hear people talk about he cut child poverty in half. He cut it in half for less than a year, and he allowed it to expire by not passing Build Back Better again.
Right.
It was intended to pass. Universal pre-K, never intended to pass. Well, never did anything on
student loan debt.
Student loan debt, which they claim that they were going to do something on. He needs to cancel it all. Maybe he'll cancel 50,000. I'll give you 10,000. Oh, and by the way, you're not even going to get that. So to me,
you will get nothing, and you will like it.
You will get nothing, and I'm glad you mentioned Build Back Better. That would have resolved a lot of the things that we've been talking about. But, we have these greedy oligarchs, and they said, nope, no more. We were willing to go along with some pandemic benefits temporarily. That's it. That's all. And we're going back to what did Biden say? Nothing will fundamentally change. So we're going right back there. Wow. And they didn't even, and that's the thing that's so insulting about it. They didn't even throw a bone. They didn't even say, well, we got to do something for the people. I mean, all this money for Ukraine, it looks bad. We got to do something. Instead, it was, nope, you're not getting anything. And you are not alone in having held your nose and voted for Biden and now saying, I'm not going to do it again. You are not alone. There are millions of people like you who weren't enthusiastic about Biden and voted for him anyway, and they are not going to vote for him again.
And they've already got, Newsom waiting in the bullpen for the moment
Biden keels over.
It's so, at some point, the people have to grow a pair.
I have a
and
list
just
of
say that
grievances.
you're not taking this anymore.
I have a list
You know,
of demands, and if Biden were to satisfy said demands, come when I submit my vote or any number of my demands, then I might consider. But
This
he
is
won't, so
also-
it doesn't matter.
This is also where people on the populist left need to act like they actually have a pair. And what I mean by that is the president, Joe is the president. He doesn't have to make any promises. He has executive authority to actually do things to make things better for people. He can cancel student debt. That is legal, despite what they're telling you. He can also expand universal health care to depressed areas.
How about at
that
least
are
the people in East Palestine?
How
And
about
by
the
the way,
people
can
in-
Flint have clean water?
How about East Palestine, Flint, Michigan, Kalamazoo, Michigan,
Right?
Jackson, Mississippi?
He could be fixing those problems.
All of these places are suffering the same plight that portions of, I think it was Bozeman, Montana, that was dealing with this environmental crisis. It's all over the country. And he has the executive authority to do that. He also has the executive authority to end endless war. He could be trying to broker a peace agreement right now between Ukraine and Russia, not doing that. What else could he be doing? He could declare a climate emergency and recognize that we need an FDR-style situation in terms of infrastructure being built that involves all different types of alternative energy that is away from coal and natural gas.
What do you think? What do you think? Like what?
I'm just spitballing here.
I
but
mean,
he
there's a
could
lot of
do
he's
this.
done nothing.
Well, he could do, a couple of those things, and then they lie so much. And instead of eliminating student loan debt, they will go after the University of Phoenix online and cancel people's debt because it was fraudulent. And they should. And then they call that canceling student loan debt. No, it isn't. They broke the law. So that's the least you should do is absolve people of that debt they got from a fake school. But that's not canceling student loan debt. It isn't. And they think people are stupid, and they think, some people are, but you can't fool all the people all the time. And it's wearing thin. And you have a president who, to say he doesn't exude confidence is an understatement. He is going to keep people from coming out, and they're going to whip people into a frenzy. The propaganda would be fierce. But as you mentioned, Gavin Newsom, he's going to debate DeSantis. Why is he debating DeSantis when he's not running for president?
I think he is kind of running for president.
Sure is.
That's who they've settled on. And listen, he is as narcissistic.
He's the understudy.
He's as narcissistic as any of them you've ever seen, but he can sell a hill of beans to that white suburban voter, urban voter that is basing their decision completely on surface dressing. And he has got a lot of that,
Oh, he's got surface dressing.
He does. He's got a lot of it. He's a terrible governor. I don't mind saying that.
Everything progressive he vetoes. They have a one-party rule in California. You wouldn't know it though. But he's ambitious. He's not 80 years. I mean, just look at him. He's not 80 years old. He looks like he's, still alive and, has.
That is a plus. I'll give him better heart rate for a plus. We could do like a bingo grid with some of these people, and this is so silly to me. Like, really, this is what we got.
Well, how do you see Cornell's campaign unfolding over the next year? I mean, he's definitely the type of leader, the type of inspirational orator that is desperately needed right now. We've been vocal about who he hired as campaign manager. It's not to say that I don't think that people can't have retribution or that they can't be given a second chance. What I would say, though, is that when you have displayed certain behavior, you have eliminated your opportunity to be trusted in a position of significant importance. That's how I feel. With that said, I do think that he is causing such a stir so quickly.
Makes me happy.
That clearly they're concerned about him and his message.
They should be.
They're very worried because they know better than any of us that Biden is vulnerable. And they know having someone with a high profile name, Cornel West, everybody knows who he is. He's been around for years, this thought leader and minister, and prominent man for so many decades. I'm a supporter of his. If Andrew Cuomo, his parting gift to the people of New York was making it impossible for third parties to get on the ballot. So even though I want to vote for Cornel West, I may not have the opportunity unless I move and register somewhere else. I am concerned about some missteps in the campaign. Peter Dow. It's like he's got the knowledge and the skills, but he's got that baggage, and they are lacking an experienced person. And I think the missteps have been, because West is a political novice.
Yes.
And so you need people with campaign experience. Should it be him though? That's the question. And I hope he does well though. But the fact that they're attacking him so ferociously tells you that they know they're in trouble. There are millions of people. Every poll, everything shows people want another choice. The duopoly doesn't meet their needs. They want another choice. But then you have people who are so terrified. The brainwashing of, you're going to, if a Republican wins, it's your fault. Do Democratic candidates ever have any responsibility for losing? I guess not. It's always the fault of people who didn't vote for them.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm being very clear up front. So in a couple of years, they won't be able to have that. They're not going to say, it's not going to be my fault. I wasn't voting for him anyway. So, But I just want to say that when they're constantly using that spoiler narrative, I've gotten to where when people say, well, aren't you worried about the spoiler? Or he's a spoiler. I'm like, good. That's what I want. I want him to spoil it. That's exactly the point. Besides, I don't really think you can spoil something that's already rotten, but I digress.
Well, when they did not do the most basic things to keep their base together, to keep their base happy. And when you do that and you just spit on people, as that's the way I think of it, you can't then cry that, they should have voted for you. But I think it speaks to something deeper and a very deep rot politically in this country, that we have a political system that doesn't represent us. And they don't even try. Sometimes they try to hide it. They'll, get window dressing progressives, and, they know, and that's the insidious thing. They know what people want. So, but if you say, I don't take corporate money, but you get into Congress and end up voting like the people who do, well, what's the big deal? So that's
worse. Now you're whoring yourself for free.
Yeah.
At least if you're getting money for it, then that's a transaction. The people that are doing it without taking corporate money, so then what?
I think I know who you were just referencing, but we'll.
This is
I'm just agreeing that if you're not taking corporate money, but you're voting in that capacity, then you're doing it for free.
I think
that's a bad business model.
Like I said, I think it speaks to, unfortunately, Alex's mindset and the rest of them, where they're really playing this long game. And you know what? We don't have time.
No.
And one of the best examples, and this is a great way to wind down the conversation. We talked, obviously, the main crux of the conversation is, Americans in general are pretty ignorant on domestic policy. On foreign policy, you can times it by 100. It's that much worse. The fact that we talked before about how there's a lot of things that people are not being informed about. There's uninformed and misinformed. In many cases, you could be both. Most people don't know what actually happened in Canadian Parliament the other day. They sure as hell are not being made aware of what just happened in Niger the other day. The fact that they have rich natural resources, much like Ukraine, in the trillions of dollars, and France has finally said, we're out, because they literally are willing to fight us to not have to deal with us anymore. What do you see is ultimately going to evolve when it comes to the United States? And in that case,
are we going to get out?
What's it going to translate once it gets over to Haiti?
Well, these are two two issues of Niger. I'm going to try to give a Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
There was a coup in Niger, military coup, deposed the elected president, but apparently this new military government has popular support. Victoria Nuland, our old friend, ran over there. So, of course, you know, something horrible is going to happen, threatened the new government. They told her to kick rocks. The U.S. then instigated other West African countries like Nigeria, which borders Niger, to turn off their electricity goes through Niger. They're cut off their electricity. They're sanctioning Niger because they're daring to be independent. Haiti, poor Haiti, which is for 200 years, almost its entire existence, has been victimized first by France, the original colonizer, which held them hostage, stole what's billions of dollars today. The U.S. did the same thing about 100 years ago. The puppet governments the U.S. put in, kidnapping when they finally had a democratically elected president the people wanted, Aristide, the U.S. kidnapped him. The current prime minister is unelected. He has no legitimacy. And we hear about the gangs in Haiti. Are there gangs in Haiti? Yes, but they get guns where from? There's an oligarchic class who run the country, who run the ports. You couldn't have military grade weapons coming into Haiti without their say so. These are people who want the country to be destabilized. So the U.S. is once again, the occupations by the UN. The UN brought cholera to Haiti. Some of the occupation troops about 20 years ago, they dumped their poop in the water and brought cholera to Haiti. That's what these occupations do. And people don't want it. But we keep being told, oh, it's so terrible. And isn't it? Now they've got, we're calling it at Black Agenda Report, blackface imperialism. They've even got African countries, Kenya, Rwanda, to say they will send troops. They've got Caribbean nations. What better way to make it look like it's not racist to get Jamaica and the Bahamas and a couple of other nations to send troops? So it's a terrible thing, but people need to know that the Haitian people don't want these occupations to happen again. They do not want it. It's the worst thing that could happen. This it's called the core group, the US and the UN and Canada and France. They picked their leaders. They picked this prime minister who may have had a hand in assassinating the last president. And Hillary Clinton, I cannot, if we're going to talk about Haiti, she forced them to do an election over because she didn't like who won. So it's that kind of thing that has made life in Haiti so difficult. People are suffering, but they're suffering from outside interference, and the Haitian people just want to have a sovereign nation where they make the decisions and the rest of the world stays out of their business. They don't want another armed occupation.
Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that but us. I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, Niger said, they said to us, please leave. And Joe looked at them and went, yeah, no. It's mind-boggling to me. And then when shit starts to hit the fan and they start getting violent and people start getting dead, then everyone's going to be like, oh, see, they're so violent there. We need to be there so that we can calm the natives.
And, you know, and the media play that role. It's disgraceful, the role the media play. And all these issues that we've discussed covering up for this administration. If you read the New York Times and the Washington Post, you don't know anything you need to know about Ukraine, about Haiti, about China, about any place in the world, because they're, the term collusion that came up when Trump was president. There's collusion amongst the foreign policy establishment, the military-industrial complex, the rich people who run the parties. They all work together, and the end result is, unless you read Black Agenda Report, unless you know that you should be looking for other information, then you are deliberately misinformed. We are a very much indoctrinated and propagandized country.
That's what we fight.
Last thoughts, Margaret. Why do you think people, and it's both the liberal and the conservative class are guilty of it. Why are so many people, and maybe it's an age thing, a generational thing, they simply refuse to look outside of the purview that they've been accustomed to, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, etc.
You got to cut the cord. These people have got to cut the cord.
Well, I think it's I mean, that's what's presented to you over and over and over again. It's the easy thing. And then they reinforce what they're telling you. People say you have to watch on MSNBC. MSNBC is the worst. They report the same thing. I was a captive audience at a friend's house recently, and every show was about Trump.
Yeah.
Every single one. I was like, there's not that much to say. There really isn't. No investigation. They never have a guest. Rachel Maddow, she's supposed to be so smart. Does she ever interview anybody who doesn't agree with her? No. Well, that's not journalism. That's just propaganda. That's all that is. And being a mouthpiece for the state. So that's what we have. Cutting through that is difficult, but that's why they censor. They know that if people knew where to go, and a lot of people do, who watch your podcast, who read Black Agenda Report, but that's their nightmare, that people realize how much they're being lied to and how much they're being fooled.
Yeah, we were demonetized. We got demonetized. Somebody, no name mentioned, apparently called up and made some sort of, I don't know, but we got demonetized.
We got demonetized.
I have my theories.
Yeah, we got demonetized without an excuse. But
no
then
reason
it turned
given.
into we're demonetized for over 2 months.
So we have no money coming until November.
Yeah.
We're allowed to appeal it in November or something.
Well, you're the only ones. And so when people like you come up and when you appear and you provide a different narrative, you're not the only ones I know where there's some mysterious reason that you're demonetized or you're about to be kicked off or you can't do any new programs for a certain amount of time. Yeah. They're terrified. They are terrified of people getting information on their own. And big tech is a very big problem. It should be regulated. It should be regulated as a public utility. Absolutely. And this platform and others, you can't live without them. You literally can't do business, can't get information without them. They should be regulated as utilities, and they should not be allowed to cut people off like that and censor.
Yeah, agreed.
Can't thank you enough for coming on. Please let everybody know what.
It's always good to see you.
Of course it is. What else you're working on, how people can find your work, obviously the Black Agenda Report, and obviously we will be talking again, maybe for Festivus. You never know.
You never know. Have you ever been for Festivus?
I will. That's right. I'm sure I could come back for Festivus. But
yes. Have you been here for Festivus? Were you here?
I think I was last year. Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah, you have to, when you come, we do the airing of grievances. That's one of the.
I remember.
I'm sure by the week of Christmas,
we'll have many grievances
there.
Sure. Listen, I already, we've got the year's going so fast. It's like just a few more months, but folks can read our work at blackagendareport.com. We're on Twitter and Facebook. I'm on Twitter. Freedom Ride Blog is my handle. And we also have a podcast tomorrow's Friday. Yes, tomorrow is Friday. And you can hear we always have a few interviews every week. So check us out.
Thank you. Guys, check out the Black Agenda Report. You know what? You are the only email that I regularly get from a contact thing that I have not unsubscribed that I like to get. And it's really good because, guys, if you get the Black Agenda Report email, then you can literally just sort of scroll and get the idea. You don't even have to go get it. It just comes into your email and you can actually just see the news. I know. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We appreciate you,
Thanks,
Margaret. Have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
One of our favorites.
She's lovely.
Absolutely true. there is no question that we do have this huge problem in the country right now.
Got a lot of problems with you people.
We do, and now you're going to hear about it. Hi, Zumani. Definitely go to blackagendareport.com. You'll definitely get everything that you need over there.
She's a lot of good stuff. And I also highly recommend her book. Is called Prejudential. It's really cool. It's basically like going through each of the presidents and their interaction with the Black community, with racism, with all that. It's really a good assessment. It's a good presidential history book.
Well, like we talked about, if we're ever going to get anywhere, we definitely need to bring the labor movement together, particularly with the left, the populist left, because that is where victory for working people is going to be had. It will not be had anywhere else. I think it's pretty safe to say at this point.
And it's not going to be had because Joe showed up on their picket line for 12 minutes.
No, but what you will see is the fact that I say that the labor movement in a lot of ways is starting to get its sea legs, and there are people in positions of authority, particularly in the Democratic establishment adjacent to the Democratic corporate media, that don't think very highly of labor in particular getting those sea legs.
I love it when these people get their panties in a bunch. It's such a
So you people are now going to hear from Bill Maher.
I hate Bill Maher
and
now.
You're also going to hear from James Carville.
Oh, you're going to make me listen to James
So
Carville?
the two of them are going to tell you exactly what they think of the left. Here we
Oh,
go.
good God.
It's a lot what we were just saying before about people have to be able to talk to each other, even if you don't completely agree. The other person is not a deplorable. I get it. Like I would never.
Some of them are.
Of course they are. Some of them are. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But
Yeah, that's true. And some people on the left are deplorable. I'm sorry.
I find the left to be just annoying.
Exactly.
They're more than just not important. It's just annoying.
Exactly.
And the Western far left is habitually the most stupid, naive people you can imagine. And they come up with these really goofy constructs, and it's all about feeling good about yourself.
Yeah. Well,
And
just feeling.
Let's assume the election was November the 3rd of this year.
Oh, Lord.
And they said the candidates are Joe Biden, the Democrat, Donald Trump, the Republican, Joe Manchin and Larry Hogan, no labels, and Cornel West. Trump would be a betting favorite.
Yes.
If I told you I would
Totally.
give you even money, you would not take that bet. All right? And so somebody better wake the fuck up.
I might take even money, but you're right. I'm totally on the same page. And I think I talked to Paul Begala today.
He told me, I saw him when
I think we're on the same page with Biden. Did a great service, but whereas in 2020, maybe he was the only one who could have beaten Trump, I think now he's the only one who will lose to him.
Tweedledum, but then it became the Three Stooges when you threw Paul Begala's name into the equation.
He's been a bootlicker.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you see, here's the thing. They always like to frame it in the perspective of they're talking about the woke left, but what they're really talking about is the labor left, because they know that that's what's driving this. That's what's driving people away from Joe Biden and the Democrats. They know that labor is growing strong, and you can't have, this is what we say about labor. You are either with the workers or you're with the shareholders. You have to make a decision.
Can't be both.
The Democratic Party has made it very clear that they, like the Republicans, are with shareholders. There is nobody with workers right now.
Well, the ultimate thing is that they are the shareholders.
That is true.
So, of course, they support shareholders. They are if you are one of the shareholders, not that we would get any sort of rules or regulations about insider trading in Congress, because that would be too unreasonable. But those are the people that are the shareholders. So, yeah, they're going to side with the shareholders.
And what they're basically saying is, why don't these people just get in line? Do you really want to risk Donald Trump getting back into the White House again? It's the same story as before.
I don't want that. I wanted Bernie in 2016. I kind of feel like anybody who got behind Hillary, I really do. It's funny that they somehow think that it was the Bernie people that kind of caused her to lose, or Jill Stein. If you were behind Hillary and you didn't see the writing on the wall then, and you didn't understand that Bernie was the answer, was the compromise, you are the problem. That's the problem. We offered you a good candidate. That's what's so frustrating. You were offered a good candidate.
The chickens are coming home to roost now in a way that people did not foresee at the time. It's like a lot of the things that happened over the course of the Clinton administration or the Reagan administration. Like the Reagan administration, you didn't feel it all at once. It came over time. The same was true with the Clinton administration and deregulation. The same was true with Bush and everything that came to a head in 07, 08.
How much of that do you think has to do with lack of access to information?
I think
because there was no internet either. So,
but therein lies, when you think about what Clinton did on the domestic side, remember the two worst presidents based on policy enactment, it's my opinion, George W. Bush on foreign policy and Bill Clinton on domestic policy.
See, we're very nonpartisan that way.
So when you look back at those particular policies that were passed, you have the crime bill, you have NAFTA, you have normal trade relations with China. You know what? Maybe
Telecom Act.
Stop banging.
Telecom Act.
Is it time for Bill?
I don't know, but the Telecom Act was definitely why we're sitting here being demonetized. That's why we're in the shit we're in, Bill. Yeah. That is the problem. Now we said Bill, so now you guys know what's happening.
Well, it's been a while since I've been on the show, but since my name's been enacted, Jen, great to see you. I see Pete's over there. I'm kind of hungry, that's why I came on board. But I just wanted to remind you all that for any of you wondering right now why the information that you receive on a daily basis seems to be tainted in some way and very dishonest in terms of that information.
That's you.
Well, I did pass the Telecom Act of 1996, and things have never been the same ever since. I got very rich off that, though, I have to say.
You've gotten really rich off of Haiti, too. Huh? We were just talking about Haiti. We were just talking about you and what you and your wife did to Haiti.
I hate Haiti.
Yeah, well, and they hate you. You go.
I hate them just as much because they just didn't want to play ball. Hey, listen.
They didn't want to. They didn't want to help you with your money laundering. Is that part of the problem?
That's what you want to call it.
That's what I call the Clinton Foundation, is a money laundering operation.
The Clinton Foundation because we're totally benevolent and being very considerate people to the less fortunate.
Yeah, that's what you are. You mean the deplorables?
Well, look, Hillary said that. I didn't say it. But I'm a little bit more politically correct in my lingo when I'm talking about
you're
less fortunates of the world. But nevertheless, like I said, if you're looking at what's going on right now when it comes to the information or the lack thereof that you're getting in the news, it could be anything. It could be Ukraine. It could be.
You mean why people are ignorant and have no information whatsoever, and it's on purpose, though, right?
I did that.
Yeah.
So that's why the 96 Telecom Act, which will never be repealed. Remember, we had 55 major media companies in the country back then. Today you have 5. That's a big problem, wouldn't you say? Well, I mean, I'm not going to complain about it. Like I said,
no, because you're a shareholder.
I'm a very big shareholder.
I am sure you are.
I have definitely let myself go in more ways than one. But remember, a lot of these problems, you could trace them back to me.
Yes, we do regularly. Thank you.
Well, like I said, I'm too far along at this point.
I voted for you twice.
I'm very happy you did.
I
might not have won if it weren't for your votes.
I'm sure.
The gullible liberals who actually believed that I was there to help them.
That was my first vote. 1992.
You never forget your first, Jen. Yeah, I've had that happen to me quite a few times. I'm sure you all aware of that. So that, of course, is my statement for this evening. I know I haven't been here for a while. But I, of course, had to come on here and talk about the fact that Hillary decided to make an appearance.
A lot of them.
Yeah, she decided that she was going to go on with
her.
She went on with Jen Psaki.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I went by really quickly. Yeah. And then, of course, I had to get off of it because I cannot look at her. I'm sorry. She's just disgusting. She makes me sick. So I cannot stomach her. But I did. I saw her. What was she rearing her head about now?
Saying that Russia was at fault all over again. And that's what's going to cost the Democrats. You see, of course, she's already starting it. You see, she can't accept the fact that, I won 4 elections in my lifetime, 4, major elections, 2 for governor, 2 for president. And
because ultimately, at the end of the day, everyone who's met you says you're very likable. And she does not get that reaction.
Guy.
She's just not.
Honestly, if she just didn't take my name she could have just stuck with Hillary on him. Who knows how far she would have gotten with that? Probably not as far.
I don't know. I don't know.
She's been taking too much credit for my work for far too long. But she did do quite a bit as first lady. They always said she was the most effective first lady ever. So she can kind of share the blame with me, right?
Who said that? Who's they? Who said that? Nobody said that.
I'm saying it because I don't want to take all the responsibility for all the terrible things that we did to this country. But remember, when you're swimming in cash the way that we are,
neoliberal tears because I was a kid, didn't know really, didn't I was.
We're not.
I want to say I was 20. I don't know. I can't even begin. And he played the saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show when I was a kid.
I played the sax and then some. I'm a player, guys.
Oh yeah,
in more ways than one. You know that.
Yeah, you know that.
But remember,
because you've been to Epstein's Island.
I have been to a lot of places.
Oh, I know
that you would talk about. So
Epstein's Island.
Here, I don't know what you're talking about. I plead the fifth, and I always will.
You were on his plane 26 times.
I cannot recall ever being on a plane with that person who's no longer with us anymore.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
You mean the one who hanged himself?
He definitely decided that he just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
He was able to successfully complete a feat that has never been done in that prison ever before. But hey,
fascinating.
There's a first for everything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Even when it's right in your face, people are so propagandized they can't even admit that what they're seeing might actually be breaking that fourth wall. I'm coming for all of you people. Just remember, stay in school, learn what you can, become cogs in the machine, and don't ever question authority. It's not wise. It never really ends well, especially for those that cross us.
Who ran against? Oh, was it Bob Dole who ran against him? Was that who it was?
Dole.
In '96?
Yeah,
was that what
right.
it was? That's why neoliberal tears, because it was Bob Dole, and there was no third party. I don't think there was a third party.
There was the Reform Party, and Mr. Perot got 8% of the vote.
Right, but that wasn't the year that he had really.
No.
Right.
I have to say to this day,
because it was Bob Dole.
Mr. Perot, I will forever be grateful, and the Walton family for convincing me to run for president so I could sneak in there past George H.W. Bush. It was a great time.
Well, at least he could read.
I
wish he had taught his son to read.
I think
because that would have been interesting. If he could read, then maybe he would have read the reasons not to invade Iraq.
It's kind of amazing how the country goes from me to George W. Bush and from Obama to Donald Trump.
I don't see why it's exactly what happens. Neoliberalism leads to fascism. That's how it goes. It's exactly what happens.
Are you saying we're the baddies?
I'm saying you're a neoliberal tool.
Well, I can't compete with that. Bye.
That's what I'm saying.
So a lot of the policies that were enacted during the Clinton years, you didn't feel them until years later. The same is true with Bush years later. And of course now...
I would say the people in Iraq felt Bush's wrath a lot.
Well,
they felt it right then.
I'm talking about domestic policy. But from foreign policy, yes, same deal. But that also set that in motion.
Bigger body count. He has the biggest body count.
So Bush's decision to invade Iraq, even if it was Cheney's decision, but nevertheless still was carried out, forever war was forever struck. And that is where we are. And so now we have been failed on the domestic front as well as the foreign front. And so it's really just a question of when the people kind of decide to just get together and say the hell with this.
We are doing that. That's the revolution.
Yeah.
I feel like it is happening. It's just, you have to look at it in the aggregate and all the different places, whether it is labor, whether it is on the ground activism, whatever it is. And even if it is in electoral politics, it is happening. People are pissed, rightfully so. And I think that's what we're seeing. I know I am.
I agree.
I am I have my own demons about that, but I mean, like, the anger is real. I have like serious rage.
The one thing that does give me hope, though, in terms of the evolution, whether it's in the Democratic Party, which is failing, or the Republican Party, which is failing, Donald Trump will come and go. He's not going to be here forever, despite what he thinks. But the GOP as a party is in a lot of trouble. And how do I know that? Because I actually slaved and suffered through the debate last night.
I can't.
And so you're going to get a little taste of just how Sad.
Can I see how he ruins it? My happy ignorant bliss about that. First of all, you guys know I don't watch debates because they're not debates; they're political theater. And
I wouldn't even call it theater anymore. It's become such a sad state of affairs that I wouldn't call this.
If you bring back the League of Women Voters to hosting debates, have them be actual debates, I would watch them.
Here we go.
As the UN ambassador, you literally
put
$50,000 on curtains in a $15 million subsidized location. Next.
You got bad information on the curtains. Do your
Yes.
homework, Tim, because Obama bought those curtains.
Did you send them back?
It's in the press.
Did you send them back?
It's the State Department.
Did you send them back?
Did you send them back? You're the one that works in Congress.
Oh my gosh.
You get it
You
done.
hung them on your curtains.
They were there before I even showed up at the residence.
Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line.
Compete against BlackRock. Excuse me.
No.
To compete against BlackRock, I made a commitment that we would never do business in China. And I will say something.
I think you have more than time to explain your point.
Well, if I was interrupted by a lot of people here, and I want to be respectful because I believe these
you
are
were
good
respectful
people,
last debate.
but I do not believe in these. We're sitting here in the Reagan Library.
Yes, I wish you
in
did
the
not think it
honor
was
of
midnight
Ronald
in
Reagan's
America.
library. If I may, from one admirer of Ronald Reagan to another.
Which one of you on stage tonight should be voted off the island? Please use your marker to write your choice on the notepad in front of you. 15 seconds. Starting now, of the people on the stage, who should be? I'm absolutely serious.
With all due respect, I mean, we're here, we're happy to debate, but I think that's disrespectful to my fellow competitors.
Nobody wants to participate.
Let's do some questions.
No, but I'll certainly tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I think I've been the only one on this stage who's been clear about this. I vote Donald Trump off the island right now. And the reason I vote him off the island,
any of the people on the stage.
You know what? Every person on this stage has shown the respect for Republican voters to come here to express their views honestly, candidly, and directly, and to take your questions honestly. I have respect for every man and woman on this stage because they've done it. Vivek, put your hand down for a second, would you? I still got time, dude. So chill out. Here, look,
Mr. Ramaswamy. TikTok is banned on government-issued devices because of its ties to the Chinese government. Yet you joined TikTok at a dinner with boxer and influencer Jake Paul. Should the commander-in-chief be so easily persuaded by an influencer?
So the answer is I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
We can get three things done. If we want to get things done, here's how we get it done in Washington. We must find a way.
Can we please respect the time?
This is why I don't watch debates, because that is not that. First of all, it's barely watchable. The only person in that clip that I saw that came off remotely decent, ironically, was Ron DeSantis, who was the flat out one to say, I'm not playing a game of voting people off the island, which I thought that, I can't believe that they would do that. And of course, Chris Christie's there, yeah, I'll vote someone off the island. But it's absurd. That is so ridiculous. And you know what? And then give it back to the League of Women Voters. Let the league handle this. Good grief.
3 minutes, and you saw exactly what the overall makeup of the entire debate was. Nothing.
Well, first of all, there's too many people. A debate is two people. A debate is one side and another side. That's a debate. That is a circus. And if you had a real debate, you would do a couple at a time. That's how you do it.
That is the worst debate they've ever seen. I would say that it's pretty bad, but it also shows you that Trump has no competition.
No,
at all.
He wins. He wins by not being there.
He wins by not being there.
And he knows that. They look like a whole bunch of fools. It's like they're the dwarves.
Vivek.
They're the seven dwarves.
May have had look, Vivek did not have the impact that he had in the first debate. There's no question about that. Nikki face planted. Mike Pence shouldn't even be in politics. He seems to me that he talks without moving his face. Well, yeah.
He talks without his mouth moving.
Very rigid.
That man.
Yeah, he's
one bathroom stall away from a scandal.
He's a true believer.
Yeah, I think that he's repressed and he's
Maybe he is.
One bathroom stall away.
There's a lot of them that are like that, unfortunately. But what you took away from this debate is that there is no real solutions or substance or anything. You talk about the fact that this is at Ronald Reagan's library. I don't know. Ronald Reagan did a lot of things that really set this country back, like the reduction of the top marginal tax rate, like the firing of the air traffic controllers and breaking labor. Like,
yeah. But yeah, well, everybody's always, I think, overly revered Reagan. Always.
Yeah.
Always. I don't, because he was the first kind of like modern era 80s capitalism, corporatism, the end of the Soviet Union. Like he was that sort of the first president of that whole new age.
He was part of 80s pop culture.
Yeah.
There's no question that he was, and he handled it very well, but that doesn't mean he governed well.
The Jelly Bellies was a thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love my Jelly Bellies.
Yeah, the Jelly Bellies were good. I am a fan.
But you cannot deny that a lot of the policies that he enacted really set this country in the wrong direction. There are times where it makes sense to cut taxes, but then it makes sense to raise them again because there's a thing called shifting markets. When it's in a bull market, you raise taxes. When it's in a bear market, you reduce taxes. Unfortunately, we live in a country now where you reduce taxes forever.
Well, is that any different than like taking away the cost of living adjustment for the labor worker, for the union workers, but then sort of thinking that they don't get that back ever?
Yeah.
Like you don't get that back. Like you just forego that and you just don't get that.
And good point about what Richard just said. When you have Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom, among other people, talking about how great Reagan is, we've said for the longest time, the Democratic Party of today is the Republican Party of yesteryear.
Yeah, the Reagan Republicans.
They are. And so when is the shift going to come back for workers? Well, we're working on it now. And quite frankly, I don't give a damn which party it comes in.
No, I don't
Just
either.
let it happen.
Yeah.
Because workers are going to have their day in the sun. It's going to happen. It's too obvious now. Like you said, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And that's at the stage that we're at now. So when you're watching this debate and you're listening to their so-called solutions to problems that are happening in this country.
Did they ever give any?
Of course. Terrible solutions.
What are their solutions?
Like with healthcare.
Oh.
Let people individually negotiate for their health costs. That may be and Nikki Haley said that.
Well, but these are people that want to privatize everything. I mean, they want to profitize everything.
Everything.
Yet what's interesting is the people that seem to not be about any sort of government anything, but yet they believe the government should be able to be in my house and in my business and in my body.
Well, that's the hypocrisy.
Right? So, that's the thing. at least be consistent. If you believe in big government, then it sort of would make sense that you think government should control my body, but you don't get to say you believe in small government, but then they should be controlling my body.
Touche.
I don't understand. But again, I'm so angry right now.
There needs to be an evolution in both political
revolution.
Parties. Revolution.
I'm having I am
revolution, evolution.
Between losing my bodily autonomy and finding out that I was a tool in an ethnic cleansing, I am filled with rage lately. That's how I feel.
Be not so happy.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I have very, very specific rage. Like I know where my rage is. And that's what I would encourage people. Aim your rage in the correct direction. It's always upward. It's always up.
Punching up is very important. But there's also something to be said for people recognizing that the system the economic and political system that we're living under today is a broken system. And you're not just going to piecemeal it back together. There needs to be a shift in the landscape in terms of the way that things are done. For example, there has to be cap regulation on private equity firms. The only presidential candidate who is in any way, shape, or form talking about the fact that there are three major corporations that essentially run the world: BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. And the only person who's talking about that is RFK.
It's a big problem. In fact, if we don't deal with that, we'll never be able to deal with the housing problem in this country, the housing crisis. And ultimately, that will be the end of all sort. I have people have called me communist, but I have no problem with private property. I don't mind private property. You know, it's so interesting that the people that are so pro-capitalist and so private property are yet creating a society where no one's going to be able to afford to have any property.
There's also the problem with the people that think that you can never have enough, that you can always have more, and that you can always subjugate people more and more and more and more.
They can.
Well,
they do.
Like Bruce says, poor men want to be rich men want to be king, and the king is not satisfied until he rules everything. And that is exactly where we are. There are these modern day kings that are all around us that really think that there's, for Bezos, for Gates, for Musk, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
It's never enough. There's always more to be had. Always more. $100 billion? Not enough.
We need a benevolent billionaire.
Well, there is Mark Cuban.
Mark, please.
Notice how Mark Cuban is
so
driven.
Badly.
Notice how Mark Cuban is driven by helping up-and-coming entrepreneurs.
Well, it's that, but he has demonstrated. I keep feeling maybe somebody would be nice enough and compile a clip of all the times I've asked to speak to Mark Cuban and send it to him, and maybe he'll take pity on me and give me 5 minutes. I really need 5 minutes, like in the Shark Tank, but I only want to present to Mark Cuban. That's really what I need. I think we could do wonderful things together. Seriously, we don't have a benevolent billionaire, and that's really what we need. That's what we need. It's like, help us, Obi-Wan, because that's what we're up against, you know. And he is the only one. First of all, he's the only one I know of that truly is self-made. The rest of them seem to have all started with a nest egg. That, first of all, and second of all, he's the only one that seems to have other motives besides simply profit. He seems to have other things that inspire and motivate him, not just profit. So that is why I would appeal to him. And I also think that he might be someone interested in having the legacy of being the kind of person that took a stand and maybe really did help with independent media and, you know, really could create something special. That would be a really good legacy.
Well, remember, our legacy is to just keep the show afloat because
we're trying, people.
We're doing the best we can. Every $5 contributor gets the Lulu sticker, as you can see.
And you get my undying gratitude.
Undying gratitude is definitely not.
But the truth, yeah, I mean, we don't. And if you do $25, you get the jersey. Okay. And, you know, look, I wish I had money to have lots of cool merch and lots of cool stuff, but we don't. I mean, you know, we've been demonetized and it's really hard right now.
We do this because we care,
right?
Because we're trying to make a difference. It's not an easy thing to do.
No.
But we do the best we can. And as you can see, we are demonetized. But if you are so inclined, go to patreon.com/generational change. For as little as $5 a month, you can contribute to our small but mighty channel.
It's very helpful.
What do we have coming up on Monday at a very special time?
So yes, we will be going Monday afternoon at 1. We will be speaking with Andrew Yang about his new novel that Peter read, which sounds like it's very much like a nonfiction fiction.
The Last Election.
The Last Election. So we'll be speaking with Andrew Yang. And is Steve coming on?
Stephen March is coming on. Steve is not going to be able to come on. The other Steve you're thinking of is most likely not going to be able to come on.
Wait, so who's coming on then on Monday?
Stephen March. It was co-authored.
Oh, okay. I understand.
You can also go to Cash App. It is $Gen Change in case you don't want to put your credit card on the grid, but just want to throw us a few bucks.
It's helpful.
And anything makes a difference.
Yeah.
But even in the couple of hundred a month that we were making through the channel, was taken away, as Jen has insisted, for spiteful reasons.
There's no other reason. We're not big enough.
Probably not. But we are trying to transform politics into service. We'll be at it again this weekend, canvassing for bodily autonomy.
I'm trying to get my bodily autonomy.
The responses have been pretty positive. We're going to get some people to come out and volunteer with us, which would be great. And of course, for those of you who are here, make sure that you are subscribed, click the bell, do all those wonderful things. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you, remember, 1 o'clock Monday. We're going to be promoting it. Hopefully a lot of people tune in. We've got a lot of interesting guests lined up. You're going to love it. We'll see you soon.